Well, this week we first told you about the historic impact on the ongoing drought having on our Highland lakes. The LCRA says this is now the worst drought our region has experienced since the lakes were built in the 1930s. It even trickles down to Lake Austin, the city's lifeblood, where it draws most of its drinking water.
KXAN investigator Kevin Schwaller also discovered the drought forced leaders to make decisions that have actually upset the environmental balance below the lake's surface.
The future of wildlife, plants, and even people around Lake Austin depend on its waters.
My oldest son, he's 3, and I've taken out here fishing with his grandfather before. And back then, you know, the lake was a little bit different. It was a little clearer, water was a little clearer.
Something is changing these waters. John Ward sees the shift. He's an angler and works with the Texas Tournament Zone organizing bass fishing competitions.
We'll go look around and see what we can find.
He guided us through this lake where aquatic plant life is now largely gone.
You can still see some reeds right on the edge of the lake there. They used to come out a good 20 yards. They were solid all the way down.
Beneath us, only their remnants.
There's one.
Bass and other fish no longer have the same plants for hiding or to use as habitat.
A little fish.
The best bass catches topped 13 pounds on this trophy fishing lake. Now, John says a good catch is harder to come by. One of the things John believes is changing this lake, thousands of sterile grass carp the city of Austin put in the lake and the state approved. In recent years, number of carp put in the lake exploded. The city was combating record growth of the invasive hydrilla plant. They believe it poses safety risks and could lead to flooding. As the hydrilla grew, the city kept stocking. 6,000 carp in December 2011. In 2012, they put in more than 17,000 more carp, then 9,000 more in May of 2013. More in 18 months than in the entire previous 7 years combined.
Do you believe Texas Parks and Wildlife approved too many carp to be stocked into Lake Austin?
What I believe is that we stocked as many carp we needed to stock to see a reduction in hydrilla. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances that are beyond our control, it turned out to be too many.
Marcus De Jesus manages Lake Austin for Texas Parks and Wildlife. His office had to approve the carp. Marcus also does vegetation studies on the lake. Here's what his office found in February 2013. Mostly hydrilla grew on the lake. That's the green. By September, about all the hydrilla was gone, and the yellow is mostly another plant. But this past November, nothing. Marcus saw no submerged plant life.
What did you think when you first saw that?
I wasn't happy because obviously our part of the equation is to maintain aquatic vegetation. And as a biologist, my efforts now are concentrated to actually restore that vegetation.
Marcus says it wasn't just the carp. A harsh winter and other animals that eat plants are also to blame. But the carp was a human decision, and Marcos says it seems the fish that were supposed to dine on the hydrilla are now munching on native plants too.
No, so it's a learning experience, and so we went off scientific literature and worked with our partners, including Texas Parks and Wildlife.
City engineer Chris Harrington maintains Austin was acting on the best information it had.
Is the lack of vegetation damaging Lake Austin?
It is. We want a healthy and diverse vegetation community that's primarily populated with our native and adaptive species.
I think things we could do is actually improve habitat by adding habitat to the lake, sunken brush piles, for example. That's great for fishing, and that's something we're planning to do. We're also planning to remove some of the grass carp.
An effort to return balance.
How long is that going to take? That's the question everyone wants an answer to.
And it's one without a clear answer. Something's changing this lake.
It's going to take some time. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be over the next few years for sure.
Now John is watching to see what kind of change time will bring. Kevin Schwaller, KXAN, investigates.
Texas Parks and Wildlife plans to finalize its actions in the next couple of months. The city is also trying to get native species to grow. Although the state maps show no vegetation, the report points out there are caged plants on the lake. The city started planting those back in 2004.